Zelensky says situation in eastern Ukraine getting more difficult as Odessa battles to restore power. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned on February 4 that Russia was throwing more and more forces into battle and that the situation on the front lines in the eastern parts of the country was getting more severe. The occupier is throwing more and more of his forces into breaking down our defenses, Zelensky said in his nightly video address, adding that the situation was very difficult in Bakhmut, Vuhledar, Lyman, and other areas. His warning came as Energy Minister Herman Halushchenko said that power had been restored to critical infrastructure in the southern port city of Odessa following an accident at a substation. Power to all critical infrastructure has been restored. The city will therefore have water and heat, Halushchenko said on Facebook. About one-third of the city's consumers now have lighting, he said, without offering more details. Earlier, Regional Governor Maxim Marchenko said a serious accident at a high-voltage substation had left 500,000 households without power in Odessa, confirming earlier reports about an accident at a facility that was previously targeted in Russian strikes. A serious accident occurred at one of the energy facilities, which caused a fire, he said, adding that emergency measures were being taken. Earlier, an air raid alert for the whole of Ukraine was cancelled without any reports of Russian shelling as Ukrainian defenders faced renewed attacks by Moscow's troops in the eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk over the past 24 hours. The alert, which lasted for about 2 hours in the morning, was the third in 2 days. No massive Russian strikes on civilian and infrastructure targets were reported on February 3 either. Amid warnings that a massive Russian offensive is in the making as Moscow's unprovoked invasion nears the one-year mark, the military said fighting had intensified in the Donbass. The enemy continues offensive operations in the Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Novopavlivka areas of Donetsk, suffering heavy losses, Ukraine's general staff said in its report. Battles have been raging for months for the city of Bakhmut, where waves of Russian attackers are piling increasing pressure on the Ukrainian forces. See also, in Ukraine's Donbass, intensifying Russian offensives, an omen of things to come. Witnesses have told RFE/RL that street fighting is underway in Bakhmut, with building-by-building combat on the outskirts of the city. Zelensky said on February 3 that Ukrainian forces will continue their fight to hold on to Bakhmut. Nobody will give away Bakhmut. We will fight for as long as we can. We consider Bakhmut our fortress, he said. Zelensky's comments come after U.S. media reports saying the United States had advised Ukraine to withdraw from Bakhmut. U.S. officials quoted by Bloomberg said this would allow Kyiv to gather forces for a spring offensive. The General Staff said on February 4 that the Ukrainian military also repelled Russian attacks in the Grakivka, Nevsky, Kremenna, and Dubrova settlements in the Luhansk region. Russian forces carried out 20 air strikes and 3 missile strikes, the military said, targeting civilian infrastructure of the Kharkiv and Mykolaiv regions, causing civilian casualties. Zelensky said Ukrainian forces have a chance of beating back a looming Russian offensive if supplied with the right Western weapons. Live briefing: Russia's invasion of Ukraine. RFE/RL's live briefing gives you all of the latest developments on Russia's ongoing invasion, Kyiv's counter-offensive, Western military aid, global reaction, and the plight of civilians. For all of RFE/RL's coverage of the war, click here. If weapon supplies are accelerated, specifically long-range weapons, not only will we not abandon Bakhmut but we will also begin to remove the Russian occupiers from the Donbass, he said. Zelensky said European sanctions should aim to ensure Russia cannot rebuild its military capability. On February 4, Zelensky said he discussed the further expansion of capabilities of Ukraine's military in a call with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Zelensky said he also thanked Sunak for the start of training of Ukrainian crews on Challenger 2 tanks. The Prime Minister said he was focused on ensuring the UK's defensive military equipment reached the front line as quickly as possible, Sunak's office said in a readout of the call. Both leaders agreed that it was vital that international partners accelerated their assistance to Ukraine to help seize the opportunity to push Russian forces back, it added. The United States on February 3 announced a fresh $2.2 billion package of military aid for Ukraine that will include rockets with a range twice the distance of the rockets Ukraine now has. The Ground-Launched Small Diameter Bomb (GLSDB) is included in the package announced by the Pentagon. GLSDBs have a range roughly double that of the High Mobility Artillery Rocket System (HIMARS) already supplied. Kyiv is requesting more powerful modern weapons, including F-16 fighter jets, even after securing pledges from its Western allies to send tanks as its forces brace for an expected new Russian onslaught in the east. Meanwhile, Portugal will send Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine, Prime Minister Antonio Costa said on February 4, without specifying how many will be shipped. Costa added that Portugal is in talks with Germany to obtain parts needed for the repair of a number of inoperable Leopard tanks in Portugal's inventory. "I know how many tanks will be sent to Ukraine, but that will be announced at the appropriate time," Costa told the Lusa news agency during a trip to the Central African Republic. The EU announced on February 3 that it is ramping up its military training mission for Ukraine, raising it from an initial target of 15,000 troops to up to 30,000. With reporting by Reuters, DPA, and AFP.